Dante's Inferno, Canto XIII. Ere Nessus had regained the bank beyond, we'd pushed into a forest where no mark of any beaten path was to be found. No green here, but discoloured leaves and dark. No tender shoots, but writhen and gnarled and tough. No fruit, but poisoned galls on the withered bark. There, the foul harpies nest and are at home, who chased the Trojans from the Strophides with dismal outcry, ominous of doom, wide-winged like birds, and lady-faced are these, with feathered belly broad and claws of steel, and there they sit and shriek on the strange trees. And the good master thus began: 'Twere well, ere going further, that thou shouldst understand thou'rt now in the second ring, and shalt be till thou comest to the abominable sand. But now, look well, and see a thing whose telling might kill my credit with thee out of hand. Already, all around, I heard a mournful wailing, but seeing none to wail, I stopped short, blinking bewilderedly, as though my wits were failing. I think he must have thought that I was thinking that all these voices through the bowls resounding were those of folk who from our gaze hid shrinking, because he said, "If from these boughs abounding thou wilt pluck off one small and single spray, thy thoughts will stagger at their own dumbfounding." So I put forth my hand a little way, and broke a branchlet from a thorn tree tall, and the trunk cried out, "Why tear my limbs away?" Then it grew dark with blood, and therewithal cried out again, "Why dost thou rend my bones? Breathes there no pity in thy breast at all? We that are turned into trees were human once. Nay, thou shouldst tender a more pious hand, though we had been the souls of scorpions." As when you burn one end of a green brand, sap at the other oozes from the wood, sizzling as the imprisoned airs expand. So from that broken splint came words and blood at once. I dropped the twig, and like to one rooted to the ground with terror, there I stood. "O wounded soul," my sage replied anon, "might I have brought him straightway to believe the thing he'd read of in my verse alone, never had he lifted finger to mischieve thee thus. But 'twas incredible, so I prompted his deed, for which myself must grieve. But tell him who thou wast, that he may try for some amends to right thee with mankind when by permission he returns on high." To this the trunk made answer, "Words so kind tempt me to speech, nor take it in ill part if at some length I'm lured to speak my mind. I am he that held both keys of Frederick's heart, to lock and to unlock, and well I knew to turn them with so exquisite an art. I kept his counsel and let few men through. Loyal to my glorious charge did I remain, and sacrificed my sleep and my strength too. But that great harlot, which can ne'er refrain from Caesar's household her adulterous eyes, the vice of kings' courts and their common bane, inflamed all hearts against me, and these likewise, flaming, inflamed Augustus to distrust, till my glad honours turned to obloquies. So, in a scornful spirit of disgust, and thinking to escape from scorn by death, to my just self I made myself unjust. But by these strange new roots, my trunk beneath, never to my most honour-worthy lord, I swear to you, was I found false of faith. And if to that bright world indeed restored one of you goes, oh, heal my memory, which lies and bleeds from envy's venomed sword. He paused there, and the poet said to me, while he is mute, let not this moment go, but speak, and ask what more seems good to thee. And I, so ask thou, whate'er thou think'st will do my hunger good and satisfy me well. I cannot ask, pity unhearts me so. Wherefore, so may this man prove liberal. Thus he resumed, thine errand to perform, imprisoned spirit. Do thou be pleased to tell how souls get cramped into this knotty form, and if thou canst, if any shall doff these limbs one day and find release therefrom. At this, the trunk blew hard, and the windy puff after this wise soon whistled into speech, you shall be answered with brief words enough. When the wild soul leaps from the body which its own mad violence forces it to quit, Minos dispatches it down to the seventh ditch. It falls in the wood. No place is picked for it, but as chance carries it, there it falls to be. And where it falls, it sprouts like a corn of wheat, and grows to a sapling, and thence to a wild tree. Then the harpies feed on its leaves, and the sharp bite gives agony, and a vent to agony. We shall take our flight, when all souls take their flight, to seek our spoils, but not to be rearrayed. For the spoils of the spoiler cannot be his by right. Here shall we drag them to this gloomy glade. Here shall they hang, each body evermore borne on the thorn of his own self-slaughtering shade. Thinking the trunk might wish to tell us more, we stood intent, when suddenly there came crashing on our astonished ears a wild uproar, as the huntsman hears the boar and the chase dashing down on his post like the noise of a hurricane, with trampling of beasts and all the branches smashing. And lo, on the left of us came two that ran, naked and torn, with such a furious burst as snapped to flinders every forest fan. "O death, come now! Come quickly!" Thus the first. And the second, finding himself outstripped in the rush, cried, "Lano, thy legs were not so nimble erst at the joust of Topo." So in the last push, his breath failing perhaps, he shot sidelong and made one group of himself and a thick bush. And filling the woods behind them came a throng of great black branches, fleet of foot and grim, and keen as greyhounds, fresh slipped from the throng. They seized the skulker and set their teeth in him and rent him piecemeal, and away they went, carrying the wretched fragments limb by limb. Then my guide drew me by the hand and bent his steps to the poor bush left mangled there, gasping vain protest through each bleeding rent. "Oh, Giacomo," it cried, "of Sant'Andrea, why makest thou a screen of me? What was the good? Am I to blame for thy misspent career?" Then said my gentle master, when he stood beside it, "Who wast thou that through such tattered wounds sighest out thy grief mingled with blood? O spirits who come in time to see me battered thus shamefully, and all my foliage torn," it said, "bring back the leaves that lie there scattered. Gather them close beneath the shrub forlorn. My city was she that for the Baptist changed her ancient patron. Wherefore on her scorn still by his art he makes himself avenged. Yea, did not Arno's bridge even now retain some image of the guardian she estranged? Those citizens who built her wall again on the ashes left by Attila had been baffled wholly, and all their labour spent in vain. I am one that made my own roof tree, my scaffold,